Yesterday we talked about broken places. Today we're going to talk about broken pieces. This is episode number 249 of Paint a Beautiful Picture. So if you were not here yesterday, please go back and watch the just previous episode because it'll help you understand this one better. So we come across those broken places in our lives and we really recognize that there was a traumatic thing that occurred to us and we need to handle it. So you remember the beginning illustration yesterday of the little girl who dropped that ceramic pony and it was in all these pieces. She said it'll never be the same again. And someone offered to glue it back together, but it never was the same. Let me tell you, after you break a bone really significantly, it may heal. They may even put screws and plates in there, but it doesn't have the exact same strength that it had before. It doesn't work just the same. And I know this from the break that I had last spring. Sometimes we do need to pick up the pieces, and there's value in that. So there are times in counseling when I talk to someone and their child's been on drugs, and they were stealing out of their wallet and stealing out of their person, really causing all this disruption in their home, and they're just at an end point. They want to kick the kid out and not hack it anymore. And the kid goes through treatment and they're really getting their head together and they need a place to land and they're like, Mom and Dad, I really want to come back home. And this is the part where you pick up the pieces, because you have to acknowledge that this got broken and this got broken and this was adversely affected and this thing happened. But as a family, we're going to pick up the pieces and put it together again. It may not be exactly the same. It may not be quite as strong as it was before. There may be some visible cracks. But it doesn't mean that it isn't worth it to pick up the broken pieces and put them back together again. Okay. In the medical terms, we're going to use physical again. People sometimes will cut off their finger or cut off their thumb when they're using a saw. And as long as you can get that thing put on ice and to the emergency room along with the rest of you soon enough, they can reattach. Honestly, I know someone who had 3 of their fingers that got cut off and had them all reattached within an hour. And they have full use and flexibility of those fingers, and actually 2 of them they can feel. So sometimes you can actually put something back together pretty close to how it was before. Another thing is when a young woman is not married. I'm going to go younger now because it's more reality in today's world. 14, 15, or 16 years old, and suddenly here she is, and she's pregnant. She's 6 or 7 months pregnant. She finally tells you this. Boy, there are a lot of pieces, let me tell you. I don't even know where to begin, so I'm going to let you fill in that picture for yourself. But within the family unit, there are pieces of life that have to get picked up. In some ways, moms and dads have to admit to their own shortcomings or failures. And that's very difficult to do. So picking up those pieces of responsibility and areas in which one failed, and if not acknowledging it to the child, certainly acknowledging it to oneself or acknowledging it to your other parent, and acknowledging it to God, that's very difficult to do. You have to pick up those pieces. You have to pick up the pieces of this young girl's life that are never going to be the same again. And I'm going to talk realistically. Those of you who are Christians can get all over me because I think that you probably know by now. Any of you who know me know that there's no way that I believe it is right or any way I can support abortion, in that I firmly believe that is taking a life and it's never acceptable to me. I need you to know that right off the bat because you do know me. But I'm going to deal with realism, and we all have to. So I'm not going to play stupid games and pretend like this isn't really some people's choice. Whether this girl has this child and keeps it, boy, there are going to be a bunch of pieces right there for your whole family. Whether this child goes through with the pregnancy and gives it up for adoption, there are so many pieces there. Or whether she has an abortion. In any case, there are going to be a lot of broken pieces. And it's going to last for a long, long, long time. So I'll address that people think that abortion is a quick solution. No, because I can tell you that I know people 45 years later who still deal with almost unbearable guilt and shame. It's not something that just fixes the problem and goes away. That's a lie. Not true at all. So you have all these broken pieces, but you love your daughter. You love your family. You're going to gather up and pick up the pieces the best you can and glue them back together again. Let me say something to you. There are times when it will take on a new shape, kind of a mosaic. You have enough broken pieces of china. You take different pieces from different places and you put them back together. You can still end up with something really beautiful, though it doesn't quite resemble the original that you had. Sometimes when you pick up those broken pieces, you have something new and unexpected that you hadn't even thought of or explored before this. And let's look at our own lives internally. Sometimes in our minds, people go through what was classically called back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s a nervous breakdown. They just truly can't handle what happened, and they kind of fall apart. And they would often be hospitalized, and they would medicate them. And it does, in fact, happen today, although it looks quite a bit different today. People will say, I'm having panic attacks, I'm going through an anxiety disorder, I'm kind of coming apart at the seams, I can't handle what's going on with me. Those are internal pieces of our lives that we need to have sometimes someone else help us pick up and someone else help us make sense out of. So again, I can recommend to you that you go to a good counselor, a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a pastor. You go to someone who's really going to help you gather up those pieces and reassemble them in some way that is orderly and beautiful and can make sense to you. It isn't a crime to have broken pieces in your life. It is a tragedy, though, to leave them scattered across the floor of your life. Never pick them up. Keep walking over and hear the crunch, 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 crunch under your feet. Never be able to enjoy going barefooted because you'd cut the living daylights out of the bottoms of your feet. Never really be able to sit in that room comfortably because of all the mess and chaos around you. Those broken pieces need to be picked up. The sooner the better. There needs to be some attempt at reorganizing and reassembling them. Again, don't give yourself too much time between the broken parts and the reassembling. And we need often someone else's help in doing that. And let me say to you, one of the things we really need is glue. Now for me, that glue is faith. A strong and abiding faith in a good and loving God that gives me the courage to take those pieces and put them back together again, knowing that there actually is a reason, even for really bad, disappointing, tragic things, and that in the end, the beauty of everything will in fact be revealed. If you don't have faith in a loving God, I can tell you, you're going to have to find a way to get some glue. And honestly, it is challenging to do. But if that glue in your family is the great love and respect that you have for one another, if that glue is your ability to process things out both mentally and emotionally, in order for broken pieces to be put back together again, there does in fact have to be glue. So I would invite you, if you don't yet know God, that you go to the book that we know has been produced and sold and read more than any other book in all of history, the Bible. And I want you to start reading in John. Not in terms of what everybody else told you, but just read it. What does God have to say about who he is and how he feels about you? Because in there, he's going to show you how very much he loves you. And another possibility I'll give you, because I see it and I see the value of it now, is a TV show called The Chosen. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it on the Chosen app. You just look it up on Google or Bing or another search engine. You'll find it. Watch Season 1, Episode 1, and see, just for a few minutes, who Jesus might be. It might actually change your life, because in there you will see Jesus help a woman gather up some of the broken pieces of her life and begin the process of putting it back together again. I want to say to you, all of us have broken places and broken pieces. We are not without help or without hope. We are just normal human beings. And we have the opportunity and the privilege of helping each other put some of those broken pieces back together again. May God help you. May God help us all. It's been really great having you with me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.